have you with us here today. Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. It is Tuesday. I am just all out of sorts after traveling back and forth to Columbus, Ohio over the last few days. We were in Columbus, obviously, yesterday for Notre Dame women's basketball and the win over Ohio State as the Irish advanced to the Sweet 16 for a fifth consecutive year. Jesse Stiers is here today. We didn't have a sports beat yesterday. There was originally a talk about abbreviated sports beat because of the game and logistically couldn't make it happen. So here we are. It is us. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Put in the 2-week notice recently at the old job. So I got no responsibilities really at the end of the day. I'm just kind of going with whatever comes my way. I wish my dogs, though, could just for 2 seconds remember who comes in and out of their house every day. Why do we have to bark at the same person that comes home every day? Like, you would think at this point, who's an intruder.
Dogs have no memory. They think everything is forever. That's what it is. That's what it's about. Yep. So I'll be here today. I'll be gone tomorrow because now we're traveling to Fort Worth, and we'll talk more basketball here in a minute. We've also got a lot of comments from Notre Dame offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock in this first hour of the show, and then a lot of different things in the second hour of the show. Little programming note, some big news coming up this weekend. Sports Radio WSBT going back to the old FM side this Saturday at noon, and from then on, we will be heard on both 96.1 FM and 960 AM here in South Bend. Obviously, YouTube, podcast, all that stuff. No impact there. But big news, Saturday, 96.1. The signage behind me will change as of next week.
It's really a big day if you think about it. The women coming off of their win, Notre Dame Pro Day, you got the radio station switching, you got the what I would call drama around the men's basketball team. There's a lot going on today.
We'll hit that in the second hour. A couple guys hit the transfer portal today. We'll hit that. I did want to mention, you were watching this live when it happened. Seemed like Pro Day kind of got prolonged a little bit today.
It was really prolonged. And they had a whole hosted show with Peacock and NBC Sports, and you had Ian Book as the co-host, but then other people would jump in and do Chris Ash came on for a little bit, Mike Denbrock came on for a little bit.
Marcus Freeman was even on for a little bit.
Marcus Freeman was on for a little bit. And so, before they started, they did some of the measurable stuff, the benching, the vertical, that sort of stuff. And then once the show actually started, you saw more of the on-field drills, 40s, that sort of stuff. But are we surprised? It's another day that Notre Dame is on Peacock. It's going to be a production.
Yeah.
You
didn't like the gun show shirts that they were wearing on Peacock?
No, those were very small. I felt bad for Tony Simeone having to be next to Ian Books. It's dog, you're a skinny guy, but I still see your little belly here.
Not a professional athlete. Yeah.
But he's still a skinny guy, right? It's just not fair tucking a polo in next to Ian Book. Yeah, a guy that trains as a professional athlete. This brings me to a good point, though. Where do you stand on the guys taking off their shirts for the on-field workouts? They're already wearing the Under Armour that's got their name and number on it.
Yeah.
I see Botello out there with his little belly. I'm like, dude, what do you you either gotta rock a shirt or you got to be so chiseled that shirt is ripping off of you.
You've got to be Jadarian Price to pull off the no shirt.
That's what I mean.
Or Will Pauling, for that matter. I think he had the shirt off.
I saw Will Pauling's six-pack because he ran his 40 shirt. I didn't realize he was that cut. He is cut.
That was six-pack. That is for sure. But Pauling with a 4.37 today. I think that's probably the happening of the day was Will Pauling with that 4.37. He was moving out there. I'd say if anyone gave himself a chance to improve his stock a little bit, maybe it's him.
Yeah, I think the first thing I saw, though, when I saw this Will Pauling time was, imagine had he been invited to the combine. And then does this beg the question? I know you and Vince probably debate and argue about this all the time. does the 40-yard dash, yes, it's a super impressive time, but how much does it matter if a guy like, and again, no one please jump on me crazy here, but Will Pauling was not invited to the combine.
Right.
Runs 4.37. So how blazing of speed do you really need to perform at the NFL level when a guy who runs a 4.37 isn't even getting an invite to the combine? But the week of the combine, it's like that's all everyone wants to blow up about is the 40-yard dash.
But I also think that's why it can help a guy like him, because he didn't get invited to the combine. So he's, sort of that next tier, most thoughts are probably a day 3 type guy, but a guy you'll open some eyes when you can run a 4.37 as a wide receiver who didn't get invited to the combine. Teams are more willing to take a flyer on you when you can run that kind of time. And we saw the kind of production. He was very reliable this year for Notre Dame. Good route runner.
A lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, a lot of touchdowns. That matters. All he does is score touchdowns. You can
I bet he ends up on like the Green Bay Packers. That's where I think he'll end up falling.
I think you're right, because they seem to draft those kind of guys.
Yeah. As much as it hurts, I'm going for the profile here, not the
I know. That's very true.
I think that while we're on the topic, I texted you this a little bit before the show. Malachi Fields kind of really built up this thing that he wanted to improve his 40-yard time. He was going to do the 40-yard dash. He said it on the Up and Adams podcast with Kay Adams, and then decided not to run it today. I find that to be that's not a good look in my opinion. Either you're hurt or you ran it the last 3 weeks and it wasn't getting any better than what you ran at the combine. But he still did other drills. So again, it's not.
He's probably been practicing his 40, and he wasn't able to bump it up enough. So it's like, why go out and do it again when you're not going to get any better and you only stand to maybe even get worse? That would be my guess. Why you wouldn't do it, if you're doing everything else, especially. So
my favorite thing from Pro Day though is you see people posting online like, "Ooh, Jeremiah Love is talking with the Bengals coach," and it's like, cool. I love that people speculate and post those photos. It's like everyone's going to talk to Jeremiah Love. Just
remember 2 years ago when Mike McCarthy was here from the Dallas Cowboys, and it's like I think he was one of 2 head coaches. It was him, and that was when Dan Quinn was had just taken over in Washington. We're like, oh, the only 2 head coaches who were there. Who could Mike McCarthy be looking at? And we all thought, well, the Cowboys need a running back. Could it be Audric Estime? At least that was our speculation. And then it turned out, I actually snapped, I don't know if you remember, I snapped a picture of him, and like Maris Leofau standing 10 feet away from Mike McCarthy. That's who they ended up drafting from Notre Dame, So it's like, just all of those little different conversations, all that stuff happens. Does it really mean that much at the end of the day? Probably not. It still depends. Still matters who's drafting high enough to get the guy,
That's how I feel. I also feel like it was a mini pre-pro day for CJ Carr. I mean, everyone in the NFL got to get a little appetizer, a little taster of CJ Carr, watching him just air out the ball for the wide receivers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, since we've started down the football road, let's just save the Sweet 16 talk and the basketball for the second segment of our show. We've come this far talking about football at this point. You want to just roll into some stuff from Mr. Denbrock here?
I think it makes sense on the football hype train here, the Pro Day train.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We've got a lot of different stuff coming up in the second hour. We've got our resident knucklehead joining us. Bobby Hensley will be with us in hour number 2 for rapid fire tonight. So that probably means we'll get 3 topics in. We'll see exactly how far it goes. But it is spring football, and we'll get over to Notre Dame in the morning for a partial practice viewing. It's one of our partials tomorrow morning, and then we'll get quarterback coach Gino Guidugli and the quarterbacks after practice, and we will also get Notre Dame running back coach Jaywan Sider. And we haven't got the list yet. I don't know which running backs we're going to get to talk to, but those are the 2 coaches, Guidugli and Sider. End of last week, it was Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, and probably the most significant thing, we kind of had some inklings that this was going to happen, but probably the most significant thing, going on right now as in terms of spring football at Notre Dame that we know of is Anthony Knapp moving from left tackle into left guard. It happened in plain sight in front of all the media full practice last week. And Denbrock, of course, was asked about that move. Here he is talking about the rationale behind moving Knapp inside.
He did 5 guys, and no, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I think it's, it's an effort, as always, during the spring in particular. How do we evaluate and figure out who the best 5 guys are? And then, okay, who's number 6, who's number 7? Is there an 8? Is there not an 8? Whatever that number happens to be. And, we know Anthony can play left tackle at a very high level and help us. Can Will Black do that? You know what I mean? Can that be his spot? Can he own that? Which gives us some more versatility offensively. And, as I was knocking on wood for Micah, it reminds me that, we haven't exactly been pristine health-wise on the offensive line for the last couple of years. And what the spring allows you to do, if you juggle the pieces around a little bit, gives you an opportunity to see if there is, unfortunately, something that goes down, where those guys fit best and who should be the next guy in and where he should be put in.
All right, so there's Mike Denbrock. And first and foremost, I always appreciate Mike Denbrock's willingness to have a sense of humor at these things and, joke around a little bit. He started off with a little light. Well, we just, we're short of bodies. But Mr. John in the YouTube chat wants to know why Joe Rudolph didn't answer this question. Well, it's because Joe Rudolph hasn't spoken with the media yet. Mike Denbrock's the offensive coordinator. So him being in charge of the offense, that's why he got it. Joe Rudolph can talk more specifically about it, I think, either next week or at the end of this week, whenever we get to talk to him next. But so you heard Mike Denbrock's explanation there, Jesse. What did you think of the response and the rationale for the move of Anthony Knapp from left tackle to left guard this spring?
Yeah, I think that the rationale and the response makes a lot of sense. I think, to me, what this boils down to is Mike Denbrock, Joe Rudolph, and probably Marcus Freeman have had the conversations of, is in the past, is Anthony Knapp a true left tackle? And the answer is probably no, but he's the best that you got at the position without compromising the rest of the offensive line. And so I think that's the biggest thing I took from this is there was probably better options for Knapp early on, but what made the most sense for the offensive line as a whole and in terms of versatility, they were going to do that. And so if that meant putting Knapp at left tackle, even though he was probably a better left guard, but you had a better combination of Knapp and that left guard, then that's what was going to make more sense. And now,
like when Strouth wasn't going to be the better option at left tackle. That's why he was the left guard.
Right. And so they're not, to me, what this sounds like is they're just not jamming square pegs into round holes at the end of the day. And so, Black wasn't ready, and they feel like they are more versatile now, assuming Black can take on the role as left tackle. Like, he's working out there and he's getting reps. That doesn't mean he's the starter right now, but they know in their back pocket that Anthony Knapp can. And so if everything goes astray, you kick Knapp back out, and then you kind of have to figure out what to do at left guard. But they want to be the most versatile, best group, and right now that is with Knapp at left guard and Black at left tackle, but that wasn't the case, a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, Denbrock to me didn't sound overly committed to the whole thing, but at the same time, it is spring, and this is when you can make these kind of looks. You can give a guy a lot more extended looks in the spring than even at the beginning of training camp. And we have seen some moves happen during training camp in Joe Rudolph's first couple of years, just like the fact that Knapp even ended up there to begin with. But I mean, when you look at this just from a sheer and now obviously the recruiting profile, Will Black, like there were a lot of people, why didn't you put him there last year? Well, he was a true freshman, and not every true freshman is ready to jump in and play left tackle, especially when you do have a guy returning who was a full-time starter as a freshman. But just from a size standpoint, you go from Knapp at 6'5", 304, which is already obviously good size, and Knapp is continuing to grow into that frame, to 6'7", 316 pounds of Will Black out there. That is a large young man, Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, he's very large and he fits that like standard typical, left tackle kind of frame. So I'm excited. I do believe that this is, what is ultimately the best outlook for the Notre Dame offensive line. It's just making sure that all the pieces come together like they want.
Right. So here's Mike Denbrock on Will Black.
He's made tremendous strides over the fall, just understanding, our scheme and what his responsibilities are within it. There's going to be a lot of bumps in the road along the spring here. He's going against a pretty good, defensive end a lot of times, and baptism by fire, which I think will serve him well moving forward. But I've liked what I've seen from him.
Yeah, I mean, I like the sound of that. The baptism by fire aspect of it. Again, the fact that he's getting that baptism in the spring and they can really get some extended looks and see exactly what he can do for a guy who does lack the experience that he lacks, Jess.
Yeah, I think baptism by fire definitely makes sense considering the defense that Notre Dame is putting out there in practice. While it might not be the same during the spring as what you might see during the fall and once the regular season starts, it's still a very talented group. And so, the saying iron sharpens iron is something that definitely is in play here, because Will Black is, and especially on the end position, going against Boubacar Traore, Bryce Young, Keon Keeley, there's a lot of studs on that side of the ball for Notre Dame. And so, we saw Anthony Knapp baptized by fire. He played against Texas A&M on the road as a true freshman and got to start. That's the kind of level of recruiting that Notre Dame is at, though. These guys can come in and be baptized by the fire. They don't need a year or two on the shelf to learn and develop. Like, these guys have the tools and skills, and sometimes all it comes down to is getting that game experience. And so if you can cut the cord and start that earlier, it's only going to benefit, Will Black and the rest of the offensive line.
And look, they always want to talk about the fact that they're an offensive, defensive line driven program, and the area that they have been the most consistent hitting, like taking big swings and getting highly regarded recruits is the offensive line. Now, obviously, they're doing better in other positions as well. I'm saying just consistently over the last several years, really going back to Heastan's first stint here. Like, that's where they continue to hit, and there's a ton of talent in that room. There's a lot of depth in that room, and they're not just keeping their blinders on because of the fact that you've got a 2-year returning starter at left tackle. They're still working at this, trying to make sure that they're going to get the best 5 guys on the field, because let's face it, there is more at stake in 2026 for Notre Dame football going into a season than there has been in a long time, probably in 35 plus going on 40 years. There's more on the line going into this season than there's been since anyone in Jesse's age bracket in that 30s, late 20s, like into your mid 30s. There's more in your lifetime than you've seen in a long time on the line going into this season.
Yeah, I think the only other season that would potentially come to mind is like year 2 of Quinn and Samardzija, like after they already kind of lit the world on fire a little bit.
True.
But I wouldn't say that there was like this, Brady Quinn was up there, the team was up there, but neither were favorites in each of their own respective, categories. So
yeah,
there is a lot going into this season, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think if this were 10 years ago, I'd be scared. But I think that with Marcus Freeman, he's ready for the moment.
Man, I tell you what, they're just taking swings at Bobby right now. Stymie says Bobby's on the show a lot more. Salty has disappeared from the chat. Not saying it's a coincidence, but I'm not saying it either. He's on once a week. He's here once a week. He's usually here on Mondays. We didn't have a show yesterday.
For 1 hour.
So he's coming in today. Come on. Lighten up. Mike Denbrock also discussed what he's looking for from Blake Hebert and Noah Grubbs this spring as they begin their battle to be the QB2 for the Fighting Irish this fall.
And I think it's a little different for each. When I think about Blake, I think about a guy that's been in the system here for a minute, right? So I want to see a growth from him that he has command of where his answers are, and then the ability to recognize and get to the answers when he needs to. I don't know that Noah is to the point yet with his knowledge of what we do that he knows enough about the problems to solve them yet. You know what I mean? So that's going to come probably over the course of the spring and the summer for him in particular. So I think there's a little bit of a different learning curve where each of those is concerned. But more than anything, are you in a position where you're ready to lead this offense, right? If God forbid, something happens and you become the starter, are you in a position mentally? Are you in a position physically? Are you in a position knowledge-wise to be able to manage this offense and lead this football team to win?
Yeah, so it like there's just different levels to this thing. You've got a guy who's been on campus for what, two months? Yeah, 2 months basically in Grubbs, and another guy who's been here for a year, and then you've got another guy showing up this summer, who's obviously not here yet, but none of them are going to be a perfect option because none of them have experience, and we've only got to see really bits and pieces. Obviously, the guys out there, I didn't get to see day one of practice because I was in Columbus, Ohio last weekend with women's basketball, and just kind of mixed reviews, I think, from day one. So it's going to be I'm really curious to see how this shapes up over the course of this spring when things wrap up about a month from now, basically, with the blue gold game.
Yeah, I really think what this kind of comes down to is you have Hebert, who should be a little bit further along because he's had more time in the system. I personally think Grubbs is a bit more talented, and that's just kind of gut instinct. And so I think what this is going to be is a kind of a classic case of, has Hebert been in the system, known enough in the system to kind of stay ahead of Grubbs, or is Grubbs' natural ability and then combined with getting in the playbook going to eventually surpass him by Hebert by the time the season starts?
Because a lot can happen between now and the start of fall camp. Once Grubbs does get the because like the thing that stands out the most to me, and we'll get to see him again tomorrow. We got to I don't know if we'll get to see him or not, because we talked to the early enrollees about a month or so ago. So I don't know if we're going to get like him again, even though he is a quarterback and tomorrow is quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if it's maybe just Carr and Hebert, but like the thing that stands out about Grubbs, the biggest thing just looking at him is he is built much more like a high school basketball player right now than a college football player. He, needs to continue to add some armor. That's like one of the biggest things to me is, just, add to that, like just the physical attributes. But, again, because he's getting this introduction this spring, a lot can change between now and the start of fall training camp when all three of those guys are going to be together battling for the job during camp. So a quick thought on some receivers. Ohio State transfer Quincy Porter, one of the guys who is out this spring, but Micah Gilbert is playing. Here's Mike Denbrock.
See, I'll be excited when we do get an opportunity to see what he can do. Micah, I think, stays healthy and is, I think, can become, a guy that can be counted on into the boundary, who can make contested catches, and then is surprisingly faster and quicker than a lot of people give him credit for.
That was Mike Denbrock knocking on wood, by the way, just in case there was any misunderstanding of that. So what did you it at least sounds like, maybe there's some blossoming hope for Micah Gilbert. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I think that, the number one thing you make of that is you want to capitalize on your opportunity. And it feels like, with Porter being gone, the big, transfer portal guy that's coming in, 5-star, what can Micah Gilbert do in the meantime to kind of separate himself? And so, what it sounds like to me is they want him to be that big physical kind of boundary wide receiver. They want him to go up and get contested balls. But what Mike Denbrock was kind of getting at towards the end is once he catches the ball, that's not just his game. Like he can run after the catch. He can break away and use his speed to finish off some routes. And so, I mean, that's the most ideal kind of boundary receiver that you can have, a guy who can high point a ball, go up and get you a tough contested catch, but then also has the speed and ability to break away as well once he gets into the second and third level of defenses. So to me, it sounds like Gilbert is, as long as he continues to progress and track on the health-wise, is someone who is putting in a ton of production with Quincy Porter being out.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity for him to kind of try to sort of, I don't know if he had a lead, but maybe take a lead, whatever it happens to be, and the fact that we did see some little, small, he had a role last year, and started to, to have some different flashes from time to time. So it looks like maybe it's starting to come together because he's someone that people, always want to point to and talk about what's going on with Micah Gilbert. Who else falls into that camp, though, is Mr. Cam Williams.
I was happy for Cam. I mean, I think, Cam is continued to make progress. His issue up to this point has been more about consistency than it has making wow plays. But I thought he did a better job of that today. I'll have to go study the tape a little bit closer from play to play. But really excited for him because I think every time you put yourself in a scenario where it's a competitive atmosphere and you're making plays, confidence builds. And he needs that as much as anybody on our team.
The dreaded C word for Cam Williams, consistency. And this is that is the word that probably frustrates fans. It's what does that mean? What does consistency mean? But I mean, it's a highly recruited, highly talented guy, but this is his third spring now after enrolling early 2 years ago, 2024. Does it feel like it's not necessarily this spring, but this season, like it's kind of a, like, if not now, win sort of situation for Cam Williams?
Yeah, you brought up one C. The other C that I heard of was the confidence. So consistency and confidence are both very tough, especially within an athlete's mind. But to get back to your original question, I do feel like it's kind of a make or break type season for Cam Williams because if you look what's in front of him and you look what he's just sandwiched right now. He's got Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter, kind of on the younger end of things. You can put, Micah Gilbert, Elijah Burris, Jerome Bettis Jr. There's so many of these young guys. And you also on the top end have guys like Faison, Jaden Greathouse, some of these older guys. And so he's sandwiched right now between a lot of, he has maybe a little bit of the experience that he should be kind of up at the level of some of these guys that have been around long enough. And if he's not, he's going to get pushed out by the talent that's younger beneath him that's starting to catch on to things, probably a little bit quicker. So consistency is a tough word to hear because he can make a wow play, but then on the next play, he can really make a head scratching, like, what are you doing type here play.
Exactly.
And
that's what you can't have, regardless of position.
And it sounds like confidence-wise, he doesn't necessarily trust the routes that he's supposed to be running majority of 100% of the time. And so when you do those two things, it really gets into the mind because when you're out there, you're not running routes playing free. You're thinking, am I hitting my landmark? Am I hitting this landmark? Am I doing what I'm supposed to? And you're just not going to play your best football.
Yeah. And when the talent is starting to stack in that room the way it's been stacking the last couple of years, that's like those things become even more magnified when you're trying to convince your coaches that you're the guy for the job and you're trying to earn that. You got to earn the trust and everything else that goes with it. And, they brought in a couple of guys from Ohio State for a reason, and they've been out there banging it in recruiting for a reason. And it's, like you may have come in highly touted, but you got to show you can do it every day, every play. Tell me S.L. Bettis Jr. is doing, again, he reminds me just looking at him. it's like looking at like a little bit smaller version of DK Metcalf, just from a jacked standpoint. Like that guy is popping out of that jersey in a good way, man. He looks like he could body you up pretty good. We'll be out there tomorrow, so we'll get, a little bit of a window in practice. And then again, we've got some interviews after practice with Gino Gaduli and J1 Sider and some other players and some of the players out there as well. Okay, we'll talk some more football in rapid fire. We're going to take a break, though. When we come back, Notre Dame women's basketball onto the Sweet 16 yet again. Year number 5 in a row for Niele Ivey and the Fighting Irish. You'll hear some of Niele Ivey's comments from postgame yesterday. You'll also hear some of Hannah Hidalgo's comments from postgame yesterday after the win at Ohio State to move to the Sweet 16. That's coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We continue Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Had some football talk in the first segment of the show. More Notre Dame football coming up in Rapid Fire at 6 o'clock as well, and many other topics, as always, in Rapid Fire, along with Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. How about Notre Dame women's basketball? 83-73, advancing to the Sweet 16, beating Ohio State. Fifth straight year into the Sweet 16 for Niele Ivey. 6 teams that Notre Dame played this season are now in the Sweet 16, and 5 ACC teams in the Sweet 16 coming up this weekend as well. The Irish will play Vanderbilt, the number 2 seed in their region, Friday afternoon, 2:30 on the Notre Dame Radio Network right here, Sports Radio, WSBT. Got down 11-0. Wasn't looking good early. I'll tell you that much. I was not feeling good. My head was spinning a little bit, Jesse. 11-0. Niele Ivey called the timeout. Were you thinking good thoughts at all when it was 11-0 right out of the chute?
So I wasn't probably as negative as some, because I feel like this is a common theme for Notre Dame in some of these more marquee matchups, especially, the last time they played, I'm pretty sure in the ACC championship, Duke did something similar to them, got out to
10-0. Yep.
10-0 lead. I will say the thing that's the most encouraging is Niele always knows when to take that timeout, and they are just such a better team right out of the timeout. Like, it's just like, it's almost like they expected one thing, didn't come out, and then Niele takes a timeout, makes an adjustment, and it's, pretty much a completely different game after that.
Again, sources say Hannah Hidalgo lit up the team during that timeout. Sources say.
Cannot confirm or deny.
Hannah lit them up, and they responded coming out of that. I mean, Niele Ivey and her staff obviously made adjustments as well, but sources say Double H was a little ball of fire during that timeout.
Reasonably so, it's just, yeah. But, it was, I wouldn't say it was expected, but you knew Ohio State was going to come out. They have one of the best guards in the country. They run a full court press pretty much the whole game. Like, it felt like an energy adjustment needed to be made, and that's what kind of maybe Hannah provided in that time.
It was like, because they played Fairfield obviously on Saturday, and it's one thing to play Fairfield, but Ohio State obviously had a completely different kind of, athleticism, speed. It was like a little bit of shock and awe, like they knew they were going to be pressed, and they knew they were going to have to handle the press. And it's not like Ohio State was just taking the ball away from them and that kind of thing. It was just like shots missed, boom, you race up court, and they're all going in. Ohio State was 5 of 5. Notre Dame missed its first 3 shots, and it's like, what the heck just happened? It's only a little bit more than 2 minutes into this thing. But, again, things obviously worked out. Hidalgo ended up with 26 points, 13 rebounds, 8 steals. 2 games in a row, she had 8 steals, which is a Notre Dame record for an NCAA tournament game. She broke the record on Saturday against Fairfield, then tied it, and her 3-pointer in the fourth quarter gave her 856 points this season, which moves her past Arike Agumbawale into first place for a single season, the all-time scoring record, the single season scoring record for Notre Dame. Niele Ivey was asked to rate the toughness of her team on a scale of 1 to 5 after the game.
5. This group is really tough. We've worked to get to this point as well. Like Hannah mentioned, like we've really grown, and the toughness area for us was not strong early on, and I talked about it a lot, like our consistency. We had some really tough losses. We had to learn a lot. This group, they had to learn each other, and I had to learn this group. So we have we've really fought through the adversity of the season, and really the last several weeks have become more tough. And that's just with our defenses, with our rebounding. It's our intensity that we've shown up with, but it has grown over time this season.
Jesse, I was really, again, when you look at how things started and the way they stabilized after that timeout, I was just impressed with the poise that they played with especially after falling behind 11-0 road environment. Because like you mentioned Duke at the ACC tournament, I mean, that's a neutral site. You're on Ohio State's floor, and the poise that they had, and it started with Ayanna Moore. She popped that three-pointer and then came down, popped another three-pointer. She's got the first 6 points. Really, like once you get on the scoreboard, I think that helps relax you. But I just thought they played with great poise after that kind of start, and the way they were able to not just get back into things, but really set the tone themselves for the way the rest of the game was played.
Yeah, I think that their toughness was the most critical factor in this game, or poise, however you want to sum it up here. And the way I'm gonna define poise or toughness is, anytime Notre Dame got down, for example, 11-0, okay, here comes Ayanna Moore, back-to-back threes, they're back in this game. 11-6 is a completely different game than 11-0. And then I'm pretty sure after that, Hannah gets a steal, and then it's 11-8, and it's like, okay, this is our game. We're back in this. But Notre Dame didn't take over the lead right away, and it felt like every time Ohio State was like, all right, we're going to creep back away, it was KK Bransford getting a tough rebound and then breaking the press and getting an easy back bucket underneath. Or maybe it was Vanessa De Jesus coming down the court. Everyone took turns being tough, especially Cass Prosper. The way I've never seen Cass finish around the hoop like she did against Ohio State. Something got in her blood where she said, I was going to be tough today and I was going to finish at the hoop. But they took turns. It wasn't just Hannah. It wasn't just Ayanna. It wasn't just Cass. It wasn't just KK. Everyone stepped up in a critical moment when they were trailing, and then when they got the lead, ensuring that they kept the lead against Ohio State, because there were many times Ohio State kept making a charging run at them, and someone kind of put their foot down and tempered things with a big shot or a big rebound.
And I think it's interesting that you brought up Prosper, because I think it's interesting because the team in the hotel, they always have these private, like the conference rooms where, like that are usually used for conferences. That's where they'll have like the, tables and the team meals and all that stuff. And they'll do a lot of their, pre-scouting and watching film and all those different things together in those rooms. Well, when I went downstairs to go, for the team meal a couple hours before the game, Carlos Knox on the staff was Kassan Prosper was the only player still in the room. And it was just, like random staff people, eating their typical meal. But Carlos Knox and Kassan Prosper sat there for like 15 or 20 minutes. And it wasn't like a loud conversation, but like there were just some things, like specific things that they were going through in terms of, like what she needed to do, for that game, and in specific, coaching points and talking points and things like that. I think that obviously that I'm sure that some of the things that were being discussed there came into play, because you're right. She had a really good game, a great game in terms of the assertiveness. But, the other thing that I mentioned a few different times during the broadcasts this weekend that I don't think we thought about this enough during the regular season, because obviously it didn't come into play as much. But you, like all the people that you talked about a little bit of everybody. The transfers, though, Vanessa De Jesus, Malaya Coles, Ayanna Moore, Gisela Sanchez, those four players had a combined 16 games of NCAA tournament experience under their belts before they came here to Notre Dame. And I think that is maybe the most underrated aspect of getting those four players, because, obviously, again, a lot of people had a lot of different opinions about this roster and those players, but they'd all been there before. And I think that, again, when you watch how that game unfolded yesterday and the way they had to, like, they never looked rattled by the whole
situation. No one panicked.
None of them. Yeah.
And none of them looked afraid of the shot either. Anytime It was time to pull a shot, no hesitations. We're gonna put this shot up. Doesn't matter if it's Hannah. I mean, I was just most impressed. Like that full court press would break a will of a lot of teams, especially when you're down 11-0.
De Jesus is not as fast as Cambridge, either one of the Cambridges. Like not as fast, not as quick, but she was the one bringing the ball up the court most of the time. Elite Eight last year with Duke. Again, like a little bit of been there, done that. and I think it showed. The poise under pressure really showed.
It did. And I'm surprised. I said this about, I want to say Duke as well. I'm surprised Ohio State stayed in the press for so long because Notre Dame was breaking it and they were getting easy basket. Like Ohio State would have to sprint up and down the court. Notre Dame would make a couple passes and Bransford would be wide open in the middle of the hole underneath the hoop, and she'd make an easy layup. And it's like, is it really worth it? Like, I know you want to, but you're sprinting up and down the court, and Notre Dame just gets an easy layup, and then they get to drop back and relax a little bit. And I thought, I think her name was Niele. She was one of the broadcasters on ESPN last night.
Oh, Niele Fortner. Yeah.
Yeah. Tremendous job, by the way. I thought she did really good speaking about both teams, but something that stuck out to me is she said, Notre Dame, they recharge on defense. Notre Dame never takes a break on defense. They get after it even harder on defense. And she was like, you can relax on offense, move around, but you never see Notre Dame team, especially Hannah Hidalgo, relaxing on defense. If Hannah Hidalgo weighed like 225 pounds, I'd hate to see her on the football field because I've never seen someone contort their body around defenders the way Hannah does to shoot lanes, to get around people.
There was the one layup. It's like, how did that even go in? She's like falling away to the left.
Yeah.
Falling out of bounds. And it's like, how did that? Like, I have no idea how it went in.
Well, she uses a swim move and a rip move to get past two defenders, and she's grabbing an offensive rebound. It's like, where did she just come from? I don't know. I've never seen someone just so elusive, but in control of their body at the same time. She's almost like a shapeshifter. I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't even look real.
Hidalgo was asked after the game if she knew that she was just 2 steals away from a triple-double, and here's the response.
No, I don't really ever know my stats. I'm out there hooping. But we knew that Ohio State want to play fast. They're an extremely fast team. They're top with turning the ball over and then points off turnovers. So we just did a great job of just trying to slow them down. And Lonnie was hooping, of course. So it was hard to slow her down, but I think we were able to just take everything else away, and just be able to get into those passing lanes and just try and get stops. We did a great job of boxing out and then rebounding. That was phenomenal.
Lonnie is Jelani Cambridge, who ended up with 41 points, of course, for Ohio State. Interesting, though, that Notre Dame had great balance offensively, and Cambridge with her 41, I mean, it's great. She had a great game, but she was also the only Ohio State player who scored in double figures in that game.
Yeah, I the more I kind of went through the game and saw the box score at the end, I think that was by design. If Notre Dame basically was like, if we lose because Jelani puts up 50, then we lose. But if we can limit everyone else, then she's going to have to shoulder the load the entire game. And that wasn't the case for Hannah. Hannah, yes, she made key plays here and there, but so did Ayanna Moore. So did Cass Prosper. So did KK Brand. Everyone had a role in this game. Outside of playing defense, I don't think you can say the same for Ohio State. It just felt like their whole team was on one person's back outside of playing defense. But when they're on offense, it was like, all right, well, here's Cambridge flying down the court and either going to drive to the hoop or hit a step back from probably around the free throw line and hit a shot. There really wasn't much to Ohio State's offense outside of that.
I agree. It was something. It was a strategy, and they just never they didn't make the adjustment that I think that they needed to try to make off it.
I think they need to just try to spread Notre Dame out more, especially on the perimeter, and make them just have to cover a little bit more territory. But, Hannah not getting caught up in the stats, that doesn't surprise me. For someone who is hustling on the rebounds and hustling to get the steals, I don't think she cares about how many points, how many rebounds, she's just creating extra possessions for her team. How can she create more chances? That's rebounds, that's steals. And the way that they work off their steals, energy-wise, obviously point-wise, is just tremendous. And so at the end of the day, Hannah is putting in maximum effort, hoping that they win. How the stats shake out is how they shake out. But Hannah is going to give you maximum effort for how long did she play yesterday? 38 of 40 minutes. It's just incredible.
Then she fouled out with under a minute to go. And, that's
So don't get me started on my biggest pet peeve. Like, Ohio State knew that game was over, down 18.
Oh,
and he had to drag that out for 10 minutes.
It was a little ridiculous. It felt like he was trying to make it look, look.
And Hannah checks out, and all of a sudden they hit back-to-back threes off the inbound. It's just like, come on. I get it. You don't want to give the impression that you're giving up, but you're down 18 with a minute left. Can we? Yeah. Some people have the under in this game, my man.
Like that final 20 seconds or whatever it was. I thought they were going to go foul Prosper again, and they finally laid off and just let her hold the ball, and it finally was over with. So,
and I might have missed this, but I'm sure it's something you knew. I didn't realize that Ohio State's head coach was Niele's coach at Notre Dame. Probably got dragged out a lot.
You're listening to the Nell Fortner broadcast, and here I am. I'm out here. I'm doing my thing. I'm putting in the prep. I'm doing my time. I'm doing this. You're not even listening. Yeah, Kevin McGuff and I won't, we weren't like best friends, but there were road trips where like he and I and Mike Miller, who's now at Detroit Mercy, who used to be the athletic trainer back in those days. Let's say during road trips, we may have, went out and consumed a few beverages together. So
couple Diet Cokes.
Good guy. Yeah, that's right. Good guy. Yeah. And he was on the net. He was an assistant on the national championship staff in 2001. And he was an assistant again the following year. And, before that as well. But then he went out, got his first job at Xavier. Did a good job at Xavier, was at Washington for a couple of years, and he's been at Ohio State for 13 years. And Letitia Bowen, who was also part of played in the 90s for Muffet McGraw, is his wife.
Yep.
And, I'm sure, again,
I know Niele
found this all out there because you weren't actually listening to the Notre Dame broadcast. That's fine. But, yes, you would have heard all of that stuff if you were listening to the actual Notre Dame broadcast.
And I know her and Niele are good friends still.
Yes, they are very close friends. Thank you, Joe. I do appreciate Joe for actually listening once in a while. Compliment. I appreciate you, man. You're a good guy. I want to get another comment or two. Another comment from Hannah Hidalgo and one more from Niele Ivey before we wrap up. So Hidalgo was asked about how her teammates stepped up in yesterday's game.
I think I can't do anything without my teammates, and just the ability to step up in these big moments. And everybody contributed in some way. And even if it doesn't show up on the stats sheet, for example, she did a great job with just knowing the scout and knowing just to kind of hedge and then just kind of get back. And it doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but every single piece we have on this team is so big and needed. And so I'm just so grateful for my teammates and just how we've been able to step up and just play together. I think that's the biggest thing is playing together.
So I wanted to make sure and get that in because look, the narrative around this season has, pretty much been it's Hannah and the rest of these players over there. And it's like, look, there's only one Michael Jordan. There's only one Kobe Bryant, only one LeBron, Larry Bird, whoever, name your star, but the star is at the top of the pecking order. Jordan had Scottie Pippen though, right? And Hidalgo has Prosper and the rest of the players, there are roles to fill. But as this season has gone along, everyone has become more comfortable in their role. And you get a super glue player like KK Bransford back, and it really just starts clicking. And everyone has lived up to their role. And like you look at the Fairfield game, Hidalgo had this great stat line, and again, we've already heard her talk about the stat line, but then you had two other players, Prosper and Moore, scoring double figures. Moore hits 4 3-pointers. She hit 7 in the 2 games. Prosper had 17 points against Fairfield. And then the game yesterday, DeJesus with 15, Prosper with 13, Moore with 13, KK with 10 points, and players just out there doing their jobs. And like I've talked about Malaya Coles before, and, there was another comment that Hannah made about Coles in a different cut that I didn't play, but, like she didn't have this monster stat line, but she just goes out there and does her job and does a lot of little things that don't always show up in the stat sheet. Like Hidalgo talked about her specifically, hedging in, and like she just, all of these players, not everyone can be the superstar, but they have all done their job, and together this thing has come together over the course of the season, and it's been really amazing to watch.
Notre Dame won that game yesterday because of their pieces. And ever since, pre-injury, it was like an audition of like, okay, how are we going to unify around our star player? And then KK gets back, and those new players transferred have played a little bit. You get the super glue back, someone who's been around the program a bit, and KK. And to me, it felt like ever since KK got back was basically, again, an accumulation for this moment. You knew that Notre Dame was going to make the tournament. How good of a team they would be, how deep of a run they would make was going to be up to them. But the rest of the regular season and how they played in the ACC tournament was like an open tryout for, are we going to be ready for this moment? And it felt like they were. They got down 11-0. They weren't scared of the moment, and the pieces came together. And the pieces is ultimately won that game because, at the end of the day, Hannah Hidalgo and Jelani Cambridge, pretty much the same thing. Yeah, Jelani had 41, Hannah had 26, whatever. They're both a star. They're going to score majority of the points.
Yeah.
Everything's going to go around them. What was going to win that game is everything that was around them. The other four that wasn't Jelani, the other four that wasn't Hannah Hidalgo. And Notre Dame's other four was just magnificent. I don't think that they've played a better game this season. Everyone hit a key shot. Everyone made a key rebound. Everyone did, Vanessa De Jesus sticking her hands in some passing lanes. Ayanna Moore sticking her hands in some passing lanes, getting easy turnovers. That's what won the game. Ohio State had to work a lot harder.
I think Moore's defense is even underrated. I'm not saying she's like defensive player of the year or anything, but she's not like there's another player who left, who everyone wants to talk about all the flashy stuff and, talk about stat lines and stuff like that, but a total liability at the defensive end of the floor. Like Ayanna Moore's not all this flash, but she's not a liability at the defensive end.
No, and she's like Hannah. She sees things before they happen. She's just always a step ahead. And so that her basketball IQ, her study is what's helping her make these plays. I'm like, how did you know to get your hand up there? Because her hand goes up and then the ball is passed and it hits her arm. Her arm is there before the pass is even made.
Right.
And then it hits her arm and then Notre Dame's moving in transition again. So again, it's the four pieces on Notre Dame's team that made the difference yesterday. And I think it'll not to get too far into it. And I know we're going into rapid fire, but Vanderbilt's built pretty much the same way that Ohio State was. Really good guard, a lot of guards. They're not going to overpower you with size. I think it's really going to be a lot.
They've got a little bit better. They do have a better big, but there is some similarity. You're absolutely right. Like they don't have the team that have given Notre Dame more problems are the teams with size throughout the lineup, and that's not what Vanderbilt is going to have. I think you're right. There's a lot of similarities there.
And I think that bodes well.
I want to play this one cut. I want to play this one cut from Niele Ivey before we wrap this up and then break and get into rapid fire. She showed a lot of emotion after the win, and she was asked why this one means so much
hard.
To
it's so hard to get to the Sweet 16. It just is. It's hard to win in NCAA. It's hard to get to the tournament. It's hard to win the first round. And to do this with this incredible group, 7 scholarship players on Ohio, on the road it's really hard to do. So I think that's where my emotions come in because I'm so grateful. I know that I'm blessed. I know that I have, again, that God has aligned me with this particular team that has really just brought so much joy to this program, and I just love them. I love seeing them improve, and so I think that's where I'm more emotional because has not been easy. And so when you know that you've gone through the fire, you've gone through the storm, and you still come out on top is the reason why I'm just so grateful.
And I'll just say, if you don't, think that maybe you take for granted how hard it is, like she's talking about, to get to the Sweet 16, and they've done it 5 years in a row now. And there are obviously fans who are like, well, you haven't gotten any farther than that. Just ask Kevin McGuff, who they beat yesterday, how hard it is to get to the Sweet 16. He's taken 2 different teams, Xavier and Ohio State to Elite Eights. He has lost, though, on his home floor in the NCAA tournament in the second round in each of the last 3 years now. It is not easy what Niele, Ivey, and Notre Dame have done these last 5 years to get to the Sweet 16.
No, and I think that this year she did the most with the quote-unquote least. And to go onto another team's home floor, another team's home city, play the way that they did, for everything to kind of come together. I'm sure Niele has taken some body blows about maybe who's left the program and what wins haven't, been won yet. But to come out, to put all that aside, I think this Sweet 16 appearance would make me feel the best as a coach, just because of this one. This one was the hardest work,
It's more rewarding. Yeah, there's more. There was more work to get this thing to come together. It has come together, but it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't a wave of a magical, waving a magic wand. Like, things had to happen to get this thing to come together the way it has.
Completely agree. And just random side note, I turned on Pro Day today, and sure enough, there she was at Pro Day. And I was like, my goodness.
Hanging out with Marcus Freeman, day after beating Ohio State.
Late night, all the emotions, and she's already back on campus the next day. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about the bus ride back from Columbus, but we don't have to do that. We're going to take a break. Rapid Fire is on the way in hour number 2. More Notre Dame football talk and more coming up. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Oh, yeah. Here we are, hour 2, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat. A little something we like to call rapid fire is on the way right now. Bobby Hensley is here. I got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm looking at you. I'm looking at this black circle.
I think that's some of
here.
Jesse's best sides right there.
I think you're right. He could not look any better than what he looks right now.
In the dark, we all look great.
Are you actually a Pirates fan, or you just like the sweatshirt?
I just like the sweatshirt. It was on clearance, and I mean, it's kind of like, you know, paying homage to Vince. It's almost a Penn look. Penn. Let's go Penn.
Apparently, Jesse is having some issues here.
Uh-oh.
Hang on.
I know who his dad is.
Just a second. Vamp there for a second.
Well, the Pirates do have a good young group of pitchers coming up. If you want to talk about baseball,
there he is. I was trying to figure out how I could text him without it being completely obvious that I was texting while we were doing this. You good there, Jess?
Yeah, my screen still shows the. Oh, there we go. My screen was still showing like we're on commercial break, so I was confused. I was like, "Are we back yet? Are we not back yet?" Then I saw Bobby's mug on the screen. And I was like, "All right, I guess we're back now."
I look better in the dark as well. I don't blame you, you know.
Before I forget, let's just go ahead and do this. Decaf says, can we give the Notre Dame baseball team some love? Breaking into the top 25, sweeping number 19 Clemson over the weekend. Huge home sweep for Notre Dame baseball. Jesse, I know you at least had some eye on it. Very young, pretty talented team. That is, that's got to be the series win of the Stifler era to this point. Let's see if they can keep it going now, though. But that was big. You know, they got that win at Louisville, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. But then Louisville ended up winning the series. But that was the first time I think they had even won a game at Louisville in like 15 years or something like that. So showing some signs of life. I like it.
I was out there as well. The crowd was pretty raucous out there.
Was it?
Yeah. They helps when you're beating a good team, because Clemson was ranked 19. Now Notre Dame is ranked because they won the series, and softball took a win away from Clemson, and they were ranked there too. So not a good weekend to be a Clemson ball fan.
I will say though, I want to get this in. You know, we were last time we talked about Notre Dame baseball. I've always had a concern about their premier pitching. At least their guys going into the weekend. Their Friday guy has struggled really ever since our guy left for Florida State. I'm drawing a
Link Jarrett.
Yeah. And what gave me the most optimism is because the offense has been there throughout the years. I would say that the lack of consistency with their top end pitching has been bad. Jack Riddell on Friday, complete game, 4 hits, 0 walks. Very impressed by that outing. 115 pitches, went the distance. That helps you for the rest of the weekend. You don't have to go to your bullpen. Your ace is giving you a full 9. Now your other 2 starters are set up for the weekend. You have a full bullpen for the weekend. That's what they've been missing. You know, like when Notre Dame baseball is dominant, especially when Maneri was here, their Friday guy was a stud. Like you pretty much knew right. You pretty much knew that Notre Dame was going to open that series with a victory, no matter who it was against.
Whether it was, Aaron Heilman or, going back before that, like Brad Lidge before that, guys who ended up, in the big leagues and Jeff Manship, Jeff Samardzija, go on down the line. You're absolutely right. Like your Friday guy in college baseball is your ace. That is your number one guy. And it's been very up and down since then. And, like even in some, there've been some times the last couple of years where Notre Dame might win an ACC series, but it's a lot of times the Friday guy has lost. They just haven't got that guy who can set the tone. But that was a huge tone that Riddell set coming into this weekend. And again, you hope to see if it can continue. It's at least a good start when you can pick off a win against Louisville after winning a series on the road against Duke, and then you sweep a team like Clemson at home. That's a pretty good start. And really all you're looking at the rest of the way is, can you take 2 out of 3 every weekend?
And a lot of those weekends will be the home.
And not get swept.
Yeah. don't get swept. Yeah, at the very worst, don't get swept. And that's, again, you didn't get swept by Louisville, so that's a good it's a good sign. Let's jump into these
also
topics
lacrosse
here.
is number one. That might need to be mentioned as well.
And congratulations to the fencing team. Should we go down the list? And
Bobby's not even a Notre Dame fan. He's acting like, oh, lacrosse.
Well, last week somebody posted it. We didn't get to talk about it, so I just thought it'd be nice, They did win fencing as well.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that Notre Dame football has the top returning production in college football in 2026. Jesse.
Oh, I'll go first here. For me, it's worrisome because it's just another thing on the list. I just keep seeing more of these lists. It's not worrisome in terms of production and skill and talent. We all know that's there.
You're just worrying about too much hype and too much expectation going
every week something comes out. CJ Carr, Heisman favorite. Notre Dame.
Here's how great it is for Notre Dame.
National championship favorite. Next week, Notre Dame has the most win total on FanDuel. Next week, you got people at ESPN saying CJ Carr is the top returning quarterback in college football. Next week, same guy comes out with his production rankings saying, oh, Notre Dame has the most production returning with the completely stacked up and loaded defense. And it's like, all right, as a fan, it's like this makes me expect more. This makes me, when things go bad, I'm going to be more angry. And when things are going well, I'm going to be on top of the world shouting Notre Dame is the best team in the world. And so it just really sucks because I feel like it's a lose-lose because they're not going to live up to the expectations. Oh, Notre Dame has the easy schedule. This is what we expected out of them, 12-0. Now things are going to start now that we're in a playoff. But then as soon as they lose, the fans are going to be like, oh, well, this is what happens when you hype up, one team so much. And so that's where I'm worrisome. Maybe I'm just being, real negative Nelly here, but I don't like every week something coming out and saying Notre Dame is the top because it's gonna crash and burn at some point, or at least that's what's happened in my 3 decades. It crashes and burns at some point.
See, this is what's amazing is exactly everything you said is true, but you are speaking as a true Notre Dame. I don't know if it's a pessimist or a realist, but
it could be either.
Yeah, right. It happens all the time, though, right? The more that you put on them and the more you expect, like this past year, it's like, all right, they go 1-1 to start the season. They might have a national championship in their future. And they went 0-2, and the whole rest of the year was like, darn it, So I think I'm going to take the positive approach and say it's encouraging because it's nice to know that you're in those conversations. It's nice to know that you have those pieces. And you talk about expectations. I think a lot of the times growing up, it was different leadership. I think the leadership's better now than what they've had before. And it's just nice to see that they have those pieces in place that keeps, and it's not just one thing. It's not like, wow, we have Brady Quinn. As long as, he'll probably carry the whole team all year and then it falls apart. I think it's great that there's just so many reasons why there is optimism.
There's an actual roster of it. It's not just a handful of guys. Jesse, do you have a pair of Air Force Ones?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
Well, that makes sense then that you're negative Nelly because you've got you rolling in your Air Force Ones.
Well, do you want to go take a ride with me? I'm surprised Sean knows
sounds like
that might be the most surprising thing.
I used to work at a top 40 station back in the day when that song was look, the
70s were wild.
70s. I think it means something because of the fact, like, this is not, it means something that Notre Dame is at the top of a list like this because they just missed the playoffs last year. So it's one thing if you are a Maryland, for example, who is number 2 on this list, and it's like, oh, you're Maryland. Were you close to achieving anything last year? No, you weren't. But Notre Dame was right on the cut of the playoffs, and they've got all this returning experience back. So I think that it is impactful. So you can worry about it, and you can, pull out your hair or, whatever else that you want to do with this whole thing. But I think that it does actually mean something because Notre Dame was so close to the playoffs and they've got this experience back. And at important positions, like, say quarterback, like the first returning quarterback that they've had in, 6 years or something like that now.
Well, and here's the other thing. I understand Jesse's point. Watching them my whole life, I understand. Would you rather them be at the bottom of that list and have no optimism going in the year? Because we've had that before too. So at least this one, I know that's putting your expectations higher and higher and getting you more excited. But it's way better being on the other side of that list.
Yeah, I mean, I get what he's saying because I agree to an extent. There are the expectations are just so high that it's like it just feels, because we've all been here before, right? Like Bobby grew up here in South Bend. Jesse grew up here in South Bend. I've been here for going on 3 decades myself, so it's like we've all had these different levels of expectations with this program, and
where they don't work.
Yeah, we're it hasn't worked out, but like everything seems to be lining up to such an extent this year that I don't think that. Well, I don't even want to say it because
this serves as more of validation for you guys. It seems like this is a lot of, especially for people who talk about Notre Dame so much. It's like it feels like validation, because it's like, are we crazy that our evaluation of this team is so high, and then you see other people kind of come out and affirm that or validate it, and you're like, oh, all right, well, I guess I'm not just some homer going crazy. I think where I'm at is, like this past weekend, good friend came to town, huge Notre Dame hater. We ended up talking about Notre Dame football for like 2 hours, right? And so it's like everyone always has some sort of ammunition to shoot at Notre Dame. And it felt like forever we were arguing about Notre Dame's schedule last year. And it's like, all right, well, do you like who else? What else do you want Notre Dame to do? And that's what it feels like this situation could approach. It's like, well, what more do you need out of someone type situation? And then when they're not doing it, it's like, all right, well, we're just going to take that sledgehammer and just start knocking you down, right? And so like that's what I'm afraid of. I hate Notre Dame getting up to the pedestal and then just getting bludgeoned by the sledgehammer.
And it happens every year, all the time, it feels like. But what I think that it obvious is when Notre Dame is good, it's good for college football. Because like when USC falls off a little bit, college football doesn't seem to matter. They kind of just go away till they get good again, or Oklahoma, some of those schools. But Notre Dame, they are the most polarizing team, I think, and maybe in any sport, to be honest with you. But Notre Dame football,
I think the way people have reacted around especially like in the last few months, I think that there's a really good case for that, because there, obviously there are other polarizing teams, but I think maybe Notre Dame has become the most polarizing across sports. That's a good point.
Yeah, I just think
that's your second good point since you started doing this show.
Well, as long as you keep letting me show up, I get at least one a year.
Hey, every dog has his day.
That's the nicest thing you've ever called me.
All right. This is Dan Orlovsky talking about Jeremiah Love on ESPN's Get Up this week.
Lions, who a couple years ago drafted a running back early in the first round, not as early as Love's going to go, and everyone was like, why? They're stupid. Yep. That young man's name is Jahmyr Gibbs. Jeremiah Love is 3 inches taller. He's almost 15 pounds heavier here in the same 40 time. So if everyone now was okay with or is okay with the Lions taking Gibbs when they took him, Jeremiah Love's going to go higher. I think he is a guy that instantly is 1,500 yards of offense his rookie year, which is kind of what CMC did his rookie year, Saquon Barkley did his rookie year, Leonard Fournette, Gibbs. I sit there and I go, realistically, because I agree, 1, 2. Realistically, I think Tennessee at 4. Yeah.
And then the Giants are at 5.
Go run to the podium if I was the Giants at 5. And
if he's still on the board at 5,
yeah.
And you're saying the Giants should take him.
Run to the podium, because we have to stop saying Jeremiah Love running back. Jeremiah Love instant offense. Weapon.
Yeah.
Football player. He's a guy that you're going to hand it to probably 250 times and throw it to 80 times his rookie season.
See, I think this has to fall into what Jesse was just talking about, though, as well. Like, because Dan Orlovsky is saying this, does that kind of take some shine off of it for you, Jesse?
No, because I think Dan Orlovsky's biggest attribute, I think he does better evaluating college than he does NFL.
I think you're right about that. If Jeremiah Love, I've got a couple different levels to this question. Bobby will probably talk us into something else here in a minute. But if he does go to the Titans or Giants at either 4 or 5. Are we sure he's a 1,500 yard of offense guy right away with those two teams specifically?
I mean, I'm not trying to split hairs. I think it's like a plus or minus 200 yard. Like, he's definitely over 1,000 yards. Does he get 1,500? I don't know. It depends on what.
We're sure with John Harbaugh and whoever the quarterback, I guess it's going to be.
I think that's how you justify taking a guy in the first round, though. You can't draft a guy, especially a running back, that high and not force feed him, a rookie in the NFL.
True.
I'm not worried about his skill set, the team that he's playing on. I just want to know that his body can handle that workload, because at Notre Dame he hasn't, and it's a longer season. Well, I know you're still going to get split reps and stuff like that, but it's still a more physical, more demanding season. And so that's where I would just be like, all right, let's make sure we're not just spamming Jeremiah Love to spam him, basically.
No, but I mean, it's the NFL, and they're splitting reps with running backs more. Like, the lead guy is still going to have more carries and more touches, but they're still splitting it. Like they started splitting it, I think, even before college started splitting it. Go ahead, Bobby. You're ready. You're chomping over there.
I'm not chomping. It's just like, if he goes to the Giants, that's lovely. When's Cam Scadaboo going to be healthy? So that would hurt his yardage if you're looking at him as a bell cow back. I don't think he'd be like you're saying, Sean. I don't think that you're going to have anybody be.
But Scadaboo's going to be the complement.
That's right. Sure, but I'm saying that still eats away the yards. But I mean, Scadaboo's more of a red zone running back.
That's what I just don't think the Giants would do 2 running backs in a row. Like, I know Orlovsky's talking about sprint to the podium, but that's why I'm so hesitant about the top 10 of this draft. So many teams have big holes elsewhere. It's like, is a running back really going to fix all your issues? With that.
But when you look at the whole situation specific to the Giants, though, with Saquon being in Philly now and how that all transpired, and you are lacking, you've got a couple pretty good receivers. You've got a quarterback that is at least likable, serviceable, I guess. Yeah. But you're lacking true star power on that team. And if you get Jeremiah Love and you're in the same division with the Eagles, who have, your old boyfriend, basically, I think you're feeling pretty good about drafting Jeremiah Love potential. I mean, I agree. That's part of the reason the Giants are where the Giants are, because they haven't successfully filled holes that they've needed to fill over these last few drafts.
Plus, remember, there's an 18th game that or 18th week of football, 17th game. So 1,500 doesn't necessarily mean as much as it used to. I think Orlovsky's saying that. I don't know. So I think that he has a better shot at getting to it because there's an extra game. And especially if he goes to the Titans, I think that for sure he'd get it. That's all they're going to have. I don't think Cam Ward's going to do much, so they're going to have to hand the ball off a lot. So to be very specific to your question and stay on task, I think that obviously over 1,000. I don't know if 15 is a right number, but like Jesse's point, he's never had that workload. He's never had to play that many games. So
I mean, 1,500, that's rookie of the year,
right?
Exactly.
But if you're taking
1,500, 10 touchdowns, I mean, that's 100 yards of production a game and basically a touchdown every other game. I mean, again, here comes those expectations.
Yeah, but if you're taking a guy at 4, you should expect that kind of.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm saying. Like,
oh yeah,
when you take someone that high, especially at running back, where it's a controversial, no one it's taboo when you should and shouldn't take a running back. If you do it, you got to be fully committed to it. That player better be in jersey day one. He's going to have all the jerseys in the stands.
So that's my next question. Are we back around to the point now where it's cool to take a running back in the top 10 again? Because obviously that went out of fashion for a long time. But obviously Genty went high last year, and Jeremiah Love, it's very rare for a running back to be getting this kind of attention, because as Orlovsky talked about in that clip there, the Lions took a lot of grief, and I wasn't sold on the Lions taking Jahmyr Gibbs where they took him, and that was at number 12. And we're talking about Jeremiah Love as high as number 4 right now. So are we around to that place, or is it just because of the lack of other guys in the draft and these specific running backs happen to be here for them?
I don't think it's a lack of what is or isn't in the draft. I just think what this comes down to is the top 10 needs to almost be like faceless in terms of skill position. If you've got a guy that's just got extraordinary talent and measurables that are just you haven't seen since X, Y, and Z, then don't overthink it. Like, I was listening to Marcus Freeman talk about Jeremiah Love at the pro day today. He said Jeremiah Love could be your best running back. He could be your best wide receiver. He could be your best cornerback. He could be your best safety. It reminded me of Boobie Miles on Friday Night Lights. Sometimes you just take the best player, regardless of position. And I think that's what Jeremiah Love is. Like, he's an outstanding football player. Whether you place him at running back, wide receiver, safety, corner, he's going to have production. And so I think that's why it's not really a matter of, okay, is it a running back or this or that? It's just a guy who's going to play well at the NFL level.
Like,
regardless.
Look at Derrick Henry. He wasn't even a late first round guy. He was a second round draft pick by Tennessee, and the guy is flirting with a chance to be the NFL's all-time leading rusher, depending on how healthy he can stay for probably the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, but that's it. We're forecasting on a draft. If we knew the answer to this question, we'd be general managers making a lot more money than we are sitting here. I like Jesse says, though, okay, if you have a guy, like he said, don't be stupid. If there's a guy that's exceptional and beyond great in his position group, you take him. I don't care what you have or what the thought is. You have to take him. That's what the draft is. And if you're a bad team, that's what sucks too, is that the bad teams are the ones drafting early. I mean, Ashton Jenkins, he had a great.
And part of the reason they're bad is because of the decisions that they make as well when they are drafting that early. Look at the Jets perennially drafting where they are. Look at the Bears a few years back taking Trubisky and then Fields and then going through, and everything that you gave up. It's like, yeah.
But then when you talk about rookie year expectations, it does depend on the position. I think the running back of any position has the most tread on them going to the pros. And that's why people back away from
And this is also why you don't take them as high as you do. But that, like, if we're talking about Jeremiah Love specifically,
he split.
He has much less tread than Ashton Jeanty had. Like Ashton and when people were talking about Love and a Heisman, and you had all these Boise people, Jeanty, look at what he did with all the yards and everything else. Yeah, but he's also put a lot more mileage he on his body before he ever got out of college. And that was part of the plan with Jeremiah Love coming out of high school, was they wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be all this tread taken off his tires.
Yeah. I mean, Ashton Jeanty, he didn't have 1,000 yards rushing this in his rookie year. So, but you think he had a successful rookie season. He had 900. Well, I mean, with that team, he was the star. You talk about star power.
Maybe when you look at the team that he played for.
Yeah.
I can
see
that.
So the running back, to answer your question, staying on task, I think it's okay to draft the running back if you have when the Colts stole Jonathan Taylor late in the first round, that's worked out really well. So I think it depends on the place and what talent that running back has, because he had a lot of tread and he's still going.
Did you suck up to your teachers this badly when you were in school?
Oh no.
Teacher, Mrs. Smith, I'm staying on task back here.
No, I'd already be in timeout. It wouldn't have mattered by now. That's why I only have to hang out with you for an hour a week. I can survive that.
That's right. Right. And listeners get upset by that. So
yeah, I know. But you enjoy that.
Let's take a break. When we come back, a couple Notre Dame men's basketball players entered the transfer portal today. We'll talk about that and more when we return. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. getting close to the finish line. Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Rapid fire, along with Jesse Stiers and Bobby Hensley. I'm Sean Stiers. We mixed it up a little bit earlier in this hour. Let's get into some Notre Dame men's basketball. The shoe kind of, I don't, well, let me just, I'll just throw this out there. Notre Dame men's basketball players, Sir Mohammed and Garrett Sundra, for those who hadn't heard, they both entered the transfer portal today. So scale of 1 to 10, how high are the alarm bells for the Irish men after this news?
Yeah, I think that this has to be a solid 8 out of 10. Shrewsbury's backbone is recruiting, especially early on. That was the bright spot, bringing in top 100 guys. Now, at least I know with Sundra, he, 4-star guy, top 100. He's now out. I don't remember quite where Sir Mohammed fell.
He was a top 60 guy.
Top 60. So now you've lost 2 top 100 players. And again, Shrewsbury's recruiting was the backbone. We've seen the struggles with the actual winning on the court. And now some of your top end players are leaving. Alarms are high. I don't want to, I've heard some other stuff. I don't want to, start talking about that here. I don't think that's a conversation for here and now. But, Tom Noy mentioned this. I think it's very well known. There's just not the same level of investment in men's basketball as the rest of the sports. And I wouldn't be surprised if that played into, Sir Mohammed and the other guy, Sundra, leaving. Because if you're getting asked, you're a top end guy, you're getting probably offered more to go elsewhere, and Notre Dame's not playing well. I just think this is the beginning, unfortunately, and I'm really worried for the next week or two that's about to come.
Well, and I don't know the other stuff you're talking about. Now I'm intrigued. That was a good tease. But alarming 10 out of 10. You're losing players. The commitment from the university is not high for your program. That's huge. Like you said, if you're not going to pay your guys, why would they stay? They can go sit the bench somewhere and probably make money and not have to worry about it. And then it's also concerning that I keep seeing these rumors about Butler in Shrewsbury, which I don't understand because I don't think he's a hot commodity with the way that Notre Dame's going. But if he's going to go there and you're losing all your players, it's like, can they even fill a roster for next year? I think it's very alarming.
Yeah, I'd put it at least an 8.5. I don't think it is through the roof. And by the way, I was just thinking the question that Niele Ivey was asked, when we played that cut in the first hour, the guy asked her about the toughness of her team rated on a scale of 1 to 5. Come in, 1 to 5 is for amateurs. That's like movie rating scale, like scale of 1 to 10. That is the standard scale. 1 to 5. How are you going to rate anything on a scale of 1 to 5? But, look, you're at a point where you've been here, if you're Shrewsbury, for 3 years. You're 15 games, I think it is, under 500 at this point, and you haven't had a winning season in 3 years. And these are both guys who have been here for 2 years. It's not like they just stuck their toe in the water and left. These were both guys who were supposed to help make a difference at this program. They both played in every game this year for Notre Dame, but it's like 16 to 18 minutes, so it's like you're losing games. You were highly recruited. Why would you stick around for another year of that? Because now you're getting to the point where, if you are talking about NIL and those kind of things, it's like your earning power and also your developmental years, it's like they're slipping away. You've got to make a move. You've got to go someplace where you can do something. And unfortunately for, the Notre Dame program in Shrewsbury right now, that has not been shown. Michael Park says, who left? The 2 players are Sir Mohammed and Garrett Sundra. They entered the transfer portal today. So Ira Shytown says, we're a long way off from the days of Digger Phelps. We're a long ways off from the days of Mike Bray right now. He gets still overlooked quite a bit for a guy who is the program's winningest coach. And by the way, went to the NCAA tournament on average every other year that he was here. There was a long sustained amount of success that Mike Bray has. And said this before, I realized that things at the very end, were kind of tailing off, but Mike Brey had a lot of success in his time at Notre Dame, and we're a long ways off from that right now.
The most success. He's the winningest coach in program history. And, you look at a guy like that, whose personality shined through. There's a lot of stuff with Shrewsbury that makes me wonder if he's the guy to lead Notre Dame to a tournament even, much less getting a deep run to like a Sweet 16. I think if he ever got a Sweet 16, you'd be like, wow, he's killing it. That's not enough. Have a guy that you can build a program around. I think he's just going to always be meddling in the middle here. And it's not all his fault. The transfer portal doesn't help things, but some of it.
No, it doesn't help things, but they also haven't been able,
himself.
Again, like Jesse was talking about, the investment back from Notre Dame, because look, like it's great that the women have had the kind of sustained success that they have had. But like when you look at the way things work on the men's side and the women's side, there are NCAA tournament units. So like for every game you win, for like getting into the tournament, you get a unit. And for every game that you win a unit. Well, those units are worth a lot more on the men's side in terms of the revenue that the school is getting back. There's a lot more money at stake. And so like that's why Notre Dame as a school has to show a lot more investment in this whole thing and what they're going to get in terms of going out and getting players for this program, because like there's a lot at stake on that men's basketball side.
I just want to make a real kind of major point here before moving on.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that can be true. Here's my kind of like, I guess, final evaluation. Shrewsbury took over a mess. He's recruited really well. We haven't seen the on-court success, and I don't think we've seen a full buy-in from the Notre Dame staff. And a lot of fans just want to say, well, Shrewsbury sucks. Let's get rid of this guy. He's not winning games. He's not Bray. All I'm saying is there are other programs out there who are willing to give Shrewsbury more, and I think that's what you should be concerned about as a fan right now. That's just my kind of honest take.
That's a fair point, because you would think that at a place like Notre Dame, you're an ACC school, so you're in one of the top conferences in the country in terms of basketball. And yes, you are a football school, and you just went to the college football playoff last year. So you would think that there would be because like if you're comparing it to a place like Butler obviously doesn't have FBS football, so like that's a big revenue generator, but it is also a private school. And so if you have the kind of alums who are willing to invest the money into it, and that's what it takes
into a specific sport that they've had success in,
because that is your bread and butter sport at Butler.
That is your football.
Yeah.
Well, it's
exactly.
Like obviously that you're calling it a basketball school because they don't have football.
Well, yeah.
And look at the stuff in football, even with the backing of a program like IU. Where did they get all their players from and their coach? They had to pay them, and the backing came from the university and the boosters and the money that they got out of normal stuff. So that's how they do it in Texas Tech. Nobody wants to go to Lubbock to play anything, but they're getting pretty good at sports because there's a lot of money being funneled into them.
Hey, that guy's going to Fort Worth next week. All right.
Well, how close
tomorrow,
is Lubbock to
not
Fort
next
Worth?
week, tomorrow. Major League Baseball's a quick shift because we're going to run out of time here in not too long. Major League Baseball opening day is tomorrow, Wednesday. Yankees visiting the San Francisco Giants. It's going to be televised by Netflix. Did either of you guys know that it was going to be on Netflix before I sent you this question earlier today?
I didn't even know opening day was tomorrow. I thought it was Thursday. So I didn't know that the opener of the season is going to be on Netflix. So, I mean, and I'm a pretty, I'm up there in terms of the baseball fans.
Follow baseball. You both follow baseball. That's why I'm asking this question.
Well, I mean, I think your question's kind of flawed because it's not opening day. It's opening night of Major League Baseball because it's a night game on Netflix. But yeah, I didn't know until yesterday. One of my friends was talking. We always get together to watch opening day, and they asked, "Do we have to get together on Wednesday now?" I was like, "No, we can wait till Thursday."
See, now this is funny. Under our USMA 87 says yes. Saw the ads on Netflix. That's the irony. So you have to watch Netflix to see the ads to know that baseball is coming up. I only know because I listen to, some of these sports media pods, and they're talking about this, the fact that Netflix now is getting involved in baseball, and they want to do like a lot of these big eventizing, they call it, because like they're going to have the home run derby this year as well.
Nice.
There's a little plug for them. They're going to have the derby and the Field of Dreams games, so like they're doing these event type things. Interesting though that but it, like bigger picture, they haven't really promoted it very much, if at all, beyond Netflix, which is like, how are you going to get a baseball audience to watch if you're not even advertising that? But Barry Bonds and Jameis Winston are both going to be part of Netflix's opening night coverage for this game Wednesday night. So for starters, Bobby is wearing his Pittsburgh Pirates sweatshirt. So I'll start with you. What do you think about Netflix and Barry Bonds?
Growing up, Barry Bonds was my favorite player. So I'm probably on the wrong side of what everybody else thinks about him. I'm like, they were all juicing. He was still the best. The more Barry Bonds we can get, the better. I think it's cool that he's kind of being welcomed back into baseball. Like, yeah, it's an ugly cloud, I guess, but I think we're far enough past it that I think it's cool that he's being brought back in. And I don't know. I think it's just neat. He's still one of the best players before steroids, during his steroids. It's just cool to have him around. Jameis Winston, he's a wild card.
Wait on Winston. We're doing these one at a time, Bobby. Stay on task.
So
you were on task for a while.
I think it's fantastic they're going with Barry Bonds. We're talking about the best hitter in the game, someone that, like Bobby talked about, has this cloud over him. We just need to get past it. Everyone was juicing, Barry Bonds was not the only guy. Here's what I'll say, though.
But not everyone. I think a rail thin speedster to, the broadest shoulders in baseball.
The end point was the same for all of them.
Everyone wanted to hit more home runs.
Fair.
But I guess what I'm trying to get at here, Barry Bonds has never done himself favors in terms of the sports baseball media. And I think this is a very clear path to try to do damage control on that relationship and reintroduce Barry Bonds in the game of baseball. Because I think most people have that sour taste of his career ending, him beating the home run record, and then basically being exonerated by MLB from the Hall of Fame, the writers, all of it. And so I think this is like their way of kind of like reintroducing both sides and getting Barry Bonds back into, the good graces of the media. I think this is just the beginning for Barry Bonds. And I guess what I'm ultimately saying is this is a very concerted effort, in my opinion.
I think it's an effort on his part. I think it's an effort on Netflix part. I think it's going to be, I'm kind of curious, like if nothing else, regardless of what the actual game broadcast looks like, to listen to Barry Bonds a little bit and hear some of his takes, because he's not a guy, he obviously had a very, harsh relationship with the media while he was playing. And now to see him get back into this and have an opportunity, like, he's got a lot of opinions, and the guy knows baseball. The guy obviously knows hitting. So I am curious to see exactly what that looks and sounds like in a broadcast situation. So I like, if you're Netflix, I don't think that you can go wrong by giving Barry Bonds like a one night pedestal to see how he does out there and see, like, he's, like it or not, he's baseball's home run king, and he's a big name in baseball. So I'm curious to see what he sounds like.
Home run king, the all-time hits king, both banned from baseball.
How about Jameis Winston? I think this is the more curious guy between these two. What do you think of Jameis Winston jumping into a baseball broadcast, Jess?
It's a wild card. Jameis Winston, really intellectual guy, obviously was a two-sport athlete stud at Florida State, could have went on to play baseball. So it's not like this is just a Joe Schmo, but he's been removed from the game. It's like his career is football, and now you get fun Jameis Winston up there with Barry Bonds. I just don't know where it's going to go. I think he's going to do a great job. I'm just curious, do I see a more serious Jameis? Do I see the Jameis we all know? Or is it the best part, it's a hybrid? And that's what's going to make it maybe fun, is his ability to kind of, be serious, but also a jokester at the same time, while Barry Bonds is, sitting next to him. Whether you like the guy or not, Barry Bonds has probably some of the top knowledge in the world on hitting. And so listening to Barry Bonds commentate on hitting with Jameis is going to be interesting.
I wonder who they got first. Like, did they get Barry Bonds and then add Winston, or did
Yeah.
Barry Bonds
They actually did. They actually did get Bonds first.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
If he knew Winston was going to be with him, he might not have signed up for it. I think it's awesome because Winston, I never would have expected him to be a media darling like he is these days. I see him on red carpets doing interviews, and he's just funny, and he makes fun of himself, which is great. I just think he's a real dude, and who doesn't like seeing that kind of media personality on television?
I mean, it's baseball, and he's going to have fun with it. And like Jesse said, in addition to playing quarterback at Florida State, he also pitched for the Florida State baseball team. So it's not like he doesn't know anything about baseball. And I think for him, look, he's getting closer probably to the end of his football career since he was like third string for the Giants last year. And when you look at what the Giants were, but he's also still playing football right now. So I think this gives Jameis Winston a chance to kind of stick his toe in the broadcasting water because it's baseball season. He's not doing any football right now. He can't do any TV during the football season. So it kind of gives him a chance. Netflix is also, they've had the Christmas Day football games the last couple years. So they're trying to do more football as well. So I think this is probably a long play for Winston where it gets his foot in the door on the TV side with Netflix, and maybe in a couple years when he's actually done with football, it gives him, more opportunities to do maybe, even both sports there. Definitely the NFL is what he's more known for.
I think it'd be cool if they did somehow a way where it's Winston pitching and Bonds batting and see what happens.
Bonds would absolutely
crush him.
It's like, did you see the videos of Tom Brady playing flag football over the weekend?
Oh,
Some things never change.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if Netflix wants ratings, though, that'd be something fun they could do.
Hey, don't forget Sports Radio WSBT Saturday at noon, making the move to FM, 96.1 FM this Saturday at noon. It'll be both on 96.1 FM and 960 AM, like it used to be a few years back. So we're just like full circle coming back to that, but we'll be back there. Good time as always, boys. Appreciate it. Bobby Hensley, Jesse Stiers, and don't forget Notre Dame women's basketball in the Sweet 16 this Friday, 2:30 this Friday afternoon as the Fighting Irish take on Vanderbilt. I'll be out tomorrow, but I'll be back on Thursday from Fort Worth, Texas, and we'll talk some basketball and football at that point as well. We'll talk to you then. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.